Greetings, everybody. It's Sky Earth Goddess, and I'm back with another video. And I am here talking about the subject of Santa Claus. So, for the record, my family, we don't celebrate Christmas or do anything with Christmas. We celebrate a similar holiday called Winter Solstice. And it's basically, in a nutshell, the pagan holiday that the Roman Catholic Church stole to make Christmas with. So that's what we do. So, we go back to the beginning and do the actual holiday for this season. It's celebrated between 21st of December and the 25th. So, my children do not do anything dealing with Christmas or Jesus, and we don't do anything dealing with Santa Claus. And it's kind of serious with me. I don't allow my children, like, if someone gives my children like a piece of candy and it's like Santa on the wrapper or something like that, or his name, they can't have that piece of candy. If it's like a book and it has like a little picture of Santa Claus or like a sticker or a bag or anything, we don't bring it in the house. If it's a TV show and they are talking about Santa Claus, we cut it off. We don't talk about Santa Claus at my house at all. We don't glorify it or anything like that. And I get a lot of people saying, well, Santa Claus isn't even real and you're going over the top and they can't have a piece of candy. And, why are you so serious about them not having anything associated with Santa Claus around them? And a lot of people don't realize the story of Santa Claus, like the true story of Santa Claus and where he actually originates from. And that's why I don't allow Santa Claus to be embraced in my house. And so if you look at Earth is the third dimension. So Earth exists on the third dimensional plane of existence. So there's infinite dimensions that exist, but Earth is just number 3. So before Earth, there are 2 dimensions. We got the second dimension and we have the first dimension. The first 3 dimensions, first, second, and third dimension, Earth, are what you call the hell realms. They are the realms that are vibrating very low because out of the hundreds and thousands of dimensions that exist, we live on dimension number 3. And the vibrational frequency gets higher the way you go up. So if there's like hundreds and thousands of realms and we're under only number 3, you can see that Earth is not vibrating nearly as high as other realms in the universe. Okay, because there's only 2 realms before us. And the first 3 are the realms of hell. Hell has 3 realms. Earth is the top crust of the hell realms. What makes Earth different, and this is going to go around to Santa Claus, I promise. What makes Earth different is that Earth has the sun. The sun provides light, heat, and it provides knowledge. People don't realize that light literally is knowledge. Like when you see light, you're looking at knowledge. And because we have divine knowledge from the sun, Earth is different. Things grow here. There is the bad and the good on Earth. There is love. There is hatred. There is polarization on Earth. So it's not all bad on Earth. You have a chance to save and redeem yourself on Earth and not be trapped here forever and all of that. The first and second realms are a bit different. They have no sun. So the second realm of hell, which is right before ours, is this realm that looks like Earth at night. So imagine your neighborhood, wherever you live, nighttime. That's what it looks like. But all of the buildings and houses and things like that are like abandoned. The windows are boarded up. Things are shot out. Glass is broken. So imagine everything in the dark at night, but looking like abandonment. That's what the second realm looks like. And it's very freezing cold because they never have heat from the sun. So that's the second dimension of hell. There are beings that live there. Different beings choose to live there. And then there's certain souls that are condemned to there because whatever they did in their life on Earth was so bad that they could not graduate to other levels of consciousness yet. They have to spend an amount of time there. Okay. So then that's the second dimension. Then we have the first dimension. Trust me, this is going to loop back around to Santa Claus real quick. Stay with me. The first dimension of hell is different than the second one. There's no buildings, but it is dark. And there's just black sand. So it's dark black sand. It's freezing cold, bitterly cold, the coldest cold you could ever feel. Okay. And it's black sand everywhere. And this black sand is so cold that it's like snow. Okay. Very, very cold. There are souls that are lost down there that live there, and they can leave the first dimension if they wanted to, but they're locked into like a hell mind state. And it is the mind state they were in when they passed away. So we're talking about people with deep depression issues, deep levels of anguish, deep levels of fear, and they die in that emotion. And because they're in such a low vibrational emotional state, they end up there entrapped in that emotional state until they finally realize, I don't have to feel like this. And then their soul leaves. So it's a lot of lost souls in that realm. Very sad. Okay. So the souls in that realm, there are also demons and other beings who live in that realm. They do not vibrate hot enough to be able to really access Earth at will. So the souls that get trapped down there, that is their only source of food and energy. So they don't want the souls to wake up and leave that first dimension of hell. They want them to stay entrapped there forever. So they keep them down there and keep them lost and confused in that realm. And they just wander around lost. Okay. So down in the first dimension of hell, this is where Santa Claus comes in. There is a being. Okay. In literature, his name has been written down a little bit in ancient literature, but nobody actually knows his real name because the people who write about this being don't want to summon him in any way. So they don't actually have his actual name. It's more so of a title. But there's a being in the first dimension of hell, and his job is to keep these souls lost and locked down there. He's like the leader of the whole thing. Now there's other demons and things that work down there, but they're all under his control and all under his leadership. Because there's sand everywhere and the sand is cold and thick like frozen snow, that's how cold it is, he has a sleigh. Not a car, not a boat, there's no water, a sleigh. Okay? And he rides the sleigh around the first dimension of hell. He rides it around, and it's being pulled by lost souls. And they're running, and he has this whip, and he whips this cold whip on their backs to get them to keep running through the first dimension of hell. Now, this is an actual real being. This being has been talked about for hundreds of years. There are depictions of him in books, but he always has like a title. He never has like an actual name because people are so scared of this being that they don't want to mention his actual name because they don't want to run the risk of summoning him. All demons have names just like we do. And so when you call their name, you run the risk of summoning them to earth because you have to realize you are incarnated God. You're incarnated God. You can speak things into existence. Just by speaking somebody's name, you can usher them to be in the same realm as you. So they don't want this being to have access to earth. At one point, he did have access to earth. This is hundreds, maybe thousands of years ago when he had access to earth. And he would come to earth to take souls. What happens is when it comes to children, the soul of a child, now a child might be an ancient soul, but the soul of a child has a stronger vibrational frequency and aura and energy signature than an adult. Okay, so what does that mean? So if somebody is trying to harvest souls, they are going to go towards the child soul first versus an adult because there's more energy there. Remember, these demons need food. They are feeding off the energy signatures from our souls. So this being would target children's souls. So what would happen would be is that this being, and this is a real being, you can research this being, Krampus, I don't know if it's based off of this being. I know you've all heard of the movie Research Krampus. The Krampus character is based off of this actual being. He would come into people's homes through the chimney and fall into the pit. And any children that were deemed misbehaviors or naughty, this being would eat these children. And after he would eat the children, he would take off one of their socks and then pin the sock along the fireplace. So when the parents would wake up the next day, they would go and they would say, oh my gosh, my child was eaten because Susie's socks are on the fireplace. That's where you get stockings on the fireplace from. That's where that comes from. So people started getting afraid. Different cultures of people, especially in Europe, began getting afraid of this being. So it became like a traditional thing to appease to this being so he wouldn't eat your children. So what people would do is, if they knew their children had been bad or done wrong, they would take a plate of food and sit it out by the fireplace. So when this being came into their homes, they would eat the food on the plate, which was an offering to that being, and not attack their children. This was something that was widely practiced in ancient Europe. It was widely well known. When people had children who misbehaved, this was the things they would do because they felt like this being was going to come up and eat their children. This is what Santa Claus is based off of. Santa Claus is very real. He's not fake. He's very real, and he lives in the first dimension of hell. And this is what his past is. Now, having access to Earth, I don't think he has access to Earth like that anymore. But back in a period of time, he did. And it made people so afraid that for hundreds of years in Europe, this is the measures they would take whenever their children misbehaved to keep their children from being eaten, because they really thought he was going to come and eat their children. They would leave out a plate of food and all of that. So leaving the cookies out for Santa, that's where that comes from. The stockings on the fireplace, that comes from the socks that he would pin up when he ate the kids. He would leave the sock pinned up so you would know which child he ate. I mean, everything about this whole thing is sick and twisted. Like when you think about the word Santa, take the last two letters and flip them. It says literally Satan. And then you have Claus. And then you read it and it says Satan Claus. It is the claws of Satan. That is what this is. Santa Claus wears red. Everyone knows that red is synonymous with the root chakra, which is your lower chakra self, which is your survival mode. People who live in their root chakra are not vibrating very high because they're just in survival mode. They're just trying to eat, sleep, and live. So his colors represent very low vibrational energy. He's the character of Santa Claus is based off of this being in the first dimension of hell. The reason why people think that he is this good guy that brings gifts is because of the lying Roman Catholic Church that came in when they stole winter solstice, and they decided to take this character and normalize him as a good guy. Okay? So when they did that, they had to find a reason for this guy to be known as a good guy. So in German culture, this particular evil being was called Old Nick. Nick is another word in a lot of European cultures for devil. So they called him Old Nick or Old Devil. So it was widely known in Europe that was the German word for this evil creature. So what the Roman Catholic Church did is they decided to find an obscure off-the-wall saint that people barely talked about that had a similar name and create a backstory to make Santa Claus seem like a good fellow. So out of a hat, they picked this obscure saint, Saint Nicholas, who had nothing to do with the holiday, nothing to do with children, and created a fake backstory for Santa Claus to hide the true backstory. Santa Claus is not based off of Saint Nick. He's based off the legend of Old Nick. Research Old Nick. Research this being on the first dimension of hell. Research Krampus, because Krampus is based off that as well, because they're going to tell you, oh no, Krampus is a being that came with Santa Claus. No, Krampus and Santa Claus is the same thing. They're just lying, telling you that they're two different things. So I need people, because it's the holiday season, to really realize what you guys are actually teaching your children. When you write letters to Santa Claus, do you realize who you're actually writing to? When you sent your child on that being's lap, do you realize what you're really doing? Do you realize where that comes from? Because that comes from sacrifice. The Europeans were so scared of Santa Claus, y'all. They would actually sacrifice their own children to keep him from eating other children. So they would take babies and they would have a graven image, like a large statue of this Santa Claus, whatever old Nick creature, and he would be sitting in a sitting position. Carved into the statue of this being's lap would be a bowl. Okay. So imagine a big statue of a being sitting. Okay. And in the lap of this creature, in the lap of this statue, is a carved out bowl. In that would be oil. And then they would have a fire underneath the statue right where the bowl was to make the oil burn. Then they would take babies and sit them on Santa's lap, which this statue sent them on the statue of Santa's lap. The lap was the boiling vat of oil. So they would stick the baby in the oil and the baby would die. And that would be the sacrifice to appease this being, because they didn't want him coming to eat any more children. That's where that comes from with sitting on Santa's lap. The reason why you're supposed to sit on Santa's lap and sit there and ask for what you want is because when the Satanists started doing it, because they caught on, they would do the same thing, put the baby in the hot vat of oil, but then ask that particular demon what they wanted as they were sacrificing. So when you're sitting your child on Santa's lap, y'all got these Santa Claus pictures, and there's a sleigh and all that and the reindeer. You have to realize where this stuff comes from, because this isn't right. We are God's incarnated in a human form, and they are playing with us. And the Roman Catholic Church is behind a lot of stuff, especially around a lot of stuff dealing with Christmas, because they made all this up. So I just wanted to do a quick video about the truth about Santa Claus, the true story about Santa Claus, and why I don't do it. Like, I don't allow anything dealing with Santa Claus in my house at all, because that being, he's real and he's extremely evil. He eats children. And I tell my children he eats children. And I don't care if they go to school and say it, because he does eat children. So, yeah. So tell me what you think in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll be back with another video soon. All right. Bye-bye.